So we're in Barcelona for Mobile World Congress 2023, and we're going to talk satellite now because satellite connectivity is suddenly a hot topic again in telecoms as new constellations are launched and non-terrestrial connectivity use cases are either enhanced or even defined, especially when it comes to the hot topic as well of closing the digital divide. So to find out more, I'm talking to John-Paul Hemingway, who is Chief Strategy and Product Officer at SES. So JP, great to see you again. Thanks very much for stopping by to chat with us today.
My pleasure, it's great to be back here and it's great to see you again after a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. So JP, can you just give us an overview of the SES constellation and business and how you fit into the overall picture?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason we're here actually this week, one of the reasons is that we've just launched our second generation of NGSO constellation. We launched the first two of those satellites in December and we're launching the rest of them this year to provide service by the end of this year. So that's a good timing for this year, but taking a step back, SES is a multi-orbit operator already. We have over 50 geostationary satellites providing services around the world for things like video distribution and for connecting things that you're flying in or floating in and for hard to reach places in the digital divide. But about 10 years ago, a startup was created called O3B, which is called the Other 3 Billion, connecting the other 3 billion folks. That was the first medium Earth orbit satellite constellation that was launched. SES was always an interested financial partner of that. Then it acquired the company, and we've been in full service for about 8 years now, providing NGSO services, the very first company to do so in the industry.
Okay, so like you mentioned, I mean, it's not like satellites new or anything like that, been around for decades and decades, but just recently the role of satellites in telco strategies just appears to have become much more prominent in the past couple of years. Are there any specific reasons for this? Why now?
I think there is. I mean, part of is the focus to have connectivity everywhere, I think has been amplified, whether that be through, the thing we all lived through COVID, whether that be the situation in Ukraine right now, is the need for always-on connectivity, whether that's for governments, users, educating remote people on healthcare. I think that's really sort of invigorated people's needs to close the digital divide. I think that's one reason from an end-user demand. But then it's the technology capabilities. I mean, when I first joined the industry like 7-8 years ago, I'd been working more in the fiber world and I was used to terabits and everything else. And then everyone's brain was thinking of satellite as the point of last resort. You go there when you can't reach those last 10 sites, it's a trickling few megabits and we'll make it work. It's just changed completely. We are providing gigabits and up to 10 gigabits per individual link from space. I mean, that's just unheard of, being able to deliver that kind of capacity through a satellite infrastructure. The latency is down to a point where we haven't found a single application that won't work over our connectivity from space, whether it's VR or gaming or running 5G backhaul. All of those that runs seamlessly. So we've always had this mantra is we've got to make satellites seamless. So it's the performance has changed, and on top of the performance, we've also embedded all of the standards that a telco would be used to. We've exposed the right APIs, we're all standardized around the sort of MEF LSO architecture, so if you want to reach in and program our network to feel like off-net to a telco, we've enabled all of those things. So satellite seamless and the end user demand are the two big things I think have changed this.
Okay. So I mean, for a service like cell site backhaul, for example, in a 4G or 5G network, I mean, what kind of uplink data connectivity can you get for that kind of service? Because that's, the data demands on the operators are growing literally every day.
Exactly. When we first started doing, let's say, 2G and 3G backhaul, that was typically, a few megabits in either direction, obviously fairly asymmetric as well, with a lot more sort of going back than being downloaded. I think what's changed now is the symmetric behavior of the requirement, but obviously if you're doing fiber, it's naturally symmetric, and I think we've had to trend towards that. So our constellation now can be truly symmetric. It can be one for one, 50 megabits by 50 megabits is kind of the lowest we think of now. So it used to be a couple of megabits, now it's the lowest, and in our cell backhaul products, we've standardized probably starting around 50 megabits and going up to about 1.5 gigabits in terms of the cell backhaul product through satellite. That's not the largest we can go to for, let's call it, the larger internet recovery services for whole countries. That's where we're talking multiple gigabits to 10 gigabits. So, but cell backhaul, absolutely gigabits kind of technology, fairly symmetric. And the thing that we do via satellite is we do a very much a guaranteed committed information rate. And if you're running a cell network, you do your own traffic management with your subscribers. The last thing you want to deal with is your backhaul link also being traffic managed, and having a guaranteed CIR effectively is something that our customers demand.
Now, wondering if, so you mentioned, the GEO and MEO constellations. I mean, is SES involved in the current move towards enabling direct satellite to smartphone services, like the likes of Starlink and AST Space Mobile are doing? And is that something that can actually drive new business for the satellite players, or is it a bit of a kind of a gimmick in a way?
It's something we're evaluating. We're certainly not in there today. We much more focus on our backhauling remote cell towers and making sure they feel as on-net as possible. We're watching the space carefully. We're actually engaged with a number of partners who are launching that. It takes a lot of capabilities to be launched, if you've seen some of the designs to get, and I think some of the emergency SMS, I get it, you do want those services, but I think it only becomes really mainstream, a real business model, if you can provide reasonable capacity, so you can do voice and video and all the things we're used to doing on our phones.
Right.
That requires certain capabilities in space, certain spectrum.
Panels the size of this kind of back wall.
Exactly. So I think you need a pretty good sized constellation. Each of the satellites is fairly big in terms of its antenna spec, but I think those are the things that'll make a difference. I get the SMS services, the emergency ones, but I think where it needs to get to be realistic is the right constellation launch with the right partnerships with the telcos and meaningful throughput. And we're engaged in those partnerships, but not something we're active in right now.
Okay. And what are you waiting for? What would be the trigger that would make you think, right, we need to be in this space now?
I think obviously we're very focused on our own business right now. We've just launched our own huge constellation. It's coming to service this year, which is very much around being connected in the telco environment. I think we're waiting for some of the technology to mature,
right.
The economics to become clear, which is, it's a big constellation you need to launch, and they're not small and extremely low-cost satellites. So that's the technology and the cost of those systems. I think then making sure that the telco companies have bought in how they want to seamlessly add this, and it's not just for the last 50 cell towers that they can't reach. It needs to be, how do they seamlessly integrate it? So we're working both with telco partners and the various folks who are engaged in the satellite technology, but I think we're watching it carefully to see some of those techno-economic situations evolve a little bit more.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously that's capturing some of the headlines, but I think it's clear that, satellite connectivity is now, it seems to be much higher in the operator strategy pile, along with energy efficiency and a few other things, than it was a few years ago. So certainly an interesting space to watch. So please do keep us up to date with what SES is doing, JP, and thanks very much for joining us today.
Absolutely, and this is a big year for us, so we're here to sell our customers our great services launched by O3B Empower. So thanks for having us.